the readiness, the research, the relationship, the writing, and the reporting. So I want to go into each one of them with just a little bit more information on what that means, what to expect when we are talking about readiness when you're writing grants. So what does it mean? What does it mean to be ready as you prepare to write a grant? What does that look like is what I want to talk about. So readiness is really talking about the capacity of the organization. Do you have the capacity to actually, one, do the work that you say you want to do? Do you have the capacity to actually handle the grant amount that you have? Because sometimes people go and apply for $1 million grant, but they don't even have the capacity in terms of the staff, the knowledge, even the reach. But they just saw this dollar sign and they decided, oh, we're going to go for these big funds because we have big ideas. But funders look at, are you realistic about your organization's capacity? Who is in your organization? Who are the key players of your organizations? What kind of partnerships do you have? So it again, it measures the organization's capacity to meet the expectations, to meet the research, because there's a lot of research that goes with grant writing. Do you even have the capacity to apply for this grant? Do you have knowledgeable people to be applying for this grant? Because if your grant is being written by a novice, for example, people can see, because things are not going to be congruent. So then that in itself will say to the funder or to the reviewer, this person is not ready. Okay. And also, do you have the capacity to apply for the grant, to win the grant, and to manage the grant effectively? And so winning grants is not impossible, but it's not easy. That's why I always encourage people and let people know to apply for as many grants as possible, and being realistic, of course. If you're new, start with the $200 grants, $500 grants, $1,000 grants, those kind of things to build that capacity. You'll see later on why it's important to go for those small funds, especially when you are still starting. I always say applying for the grant is also applying for as many grants as possible is the best way to be in a better position to win the grants, because the odds are not on our side as grant writers. The amount of time that you put into it, you get a return of about 10 to 20%. So more grants to apply, the better. The better you have the chances. It's not impossible, but it can be done. It just takes a lot of work. Your readiness also means, are you able to plan ahead? Are you not just seeing a grant and thinking, I'm going to apply for a grant? Have you taken some time before you even search for the grants to really think, do I really have the capacity? Do I have the wherewithal to actually do this? Have I connected with the right people? Have I connected? Do I have somebody who knows numbers better than I do, so that they can help me on the portion of the finances, because there's a financial aspect to applying for grant. So if your finances and your narrative is not congruent, chances are you may not get that grant. So planning ahead means putting those individuals in place. Do you have somebody who writes better, who tells stories better than you do? You may have the idea, you may be the one that started this project, you're the visionary, but you need a good team around you. As a visionary, you may see the big picture, but these are small steps that get you to that big picture. Do you have the right team around you? Have you put the right team around you? So plan ahead when you start going for these grants. Some people make the mistake of doing this, what I call episodic grant seeking, where they find a need. We have a program we want to start. Now they start looking for the funds. That's not part of planning ahead. You know that next year, in 12 months from now, in 12 months from now, we want to start a program to give access to our young youth who are disabled, are not part of any camp, are not being reached out. Nobody's reaching out to them. They are left out in the community. They don't have anything that is specifically for them. So now that's next year. You start going for those funds now. You start applying now. You start putting your team together now. You start looking for volunteers now. You don't wait until 2 days before summer and then you start fumbling around, or 1 month before summer and you start saying, where are the funds? We need funds. And you start going for grants and start calling Pastor T, do you have a grant for youth programs? And I'm like, when is your youth program going? Oh, it's in a month now. Because some grants, there are some grants who make decisions fast. Like I have a couple of grants that are going on right now who accept grants on a rolling scale, and every month they are giving grants. Every month they are making that decision. And if that's something that you guys are interested in, I will be able to share those links of those particular grants with you, where they are making quick decisions, and they are usually not a lot of money, anywhere between $500 and $5,000, and so are free for anyone to apply for. Some of specifically should be applied by women, and some are open to everyone. But they are making these decisions on a monthly basis. That's a small number of funders, but the majority number of funders, they take their time to review the grants. They start reviewing those grants soon after the deadline, and then they give themselves a few months to apply. Most of the time, when a grant is coming out, chances are you are only going to be receiving the money next year or in a couple of quarters from the time that from the date of the deadline. So it's important it's important to create better habits of just going for those grants, not waiting for when you actually need the funds to then start looking for the money. You need to have a full understanding of all elements of a grant proposal before you begin writing. So what do I mean? I have often said to people, when you see a grant that you like, that you want to go for, before you start writing anything, just read it. Read it through from cover to cover. Just read it through so you completely understand what are the key elements. The key elements can include the executive summary, they can include the budget, they can include the narrative, they can include what are the goals and objectives, they can include all other aspects. They are specific elements that they are asking for. What is your organization's capacity? They have all these. Every grant has several elements. They are key elements that I believe we talked about before. If we haven't, I'm going to talk about them. But there are key elements, about 10 to 11 key elements that that most grants have. So your job is to really read this grant, fully understand it, and highlight where are the key elements that you need to pay attention to. And then readiness has various aspects. It has three tangents, if you will. So there is the administrative, there is the programmatic, and then there is the financial. So I'm going to talk about each of them. So the administrative part is speaking to whether or not, before you do anything, are you even a registered entity in your community, in your country? Are you a registered entity? Are you nonprofit organization in the United States? Do you have the 501c3, which is a status that the Inland Revenue gives you? If you are in Zimbabwe, for example, is the PVO, have you registered? Do you have that paperwork? Are you certified? Do you have, in other countries would want to know, are you a women minority organization, or are you for-profit company? And if so, are you registered? Do you have the certification? Do you have the articles of incorporation? That goes without saying, because most of the grants want to know that you are a registered entity. And there are some grants that are available, which I can also share, that don't really look at whether or not you are a registered entity. They just want to support your idea, especially when you're first starting. Now, why is it important to be a registered entity? Obvious reasons to some, and not necessarily obvious to others. The reason is that it legitimizes who you are. It acknowledges, from the government perspective, from anyone else that is looking at it, that somebody has vetted you. Somebody has said, this person has met ABC, therefore they are now this entity. So it's important, just from a place of being legitimized. And in other countries, for example, in Zimbabwe, when you have a PVO, you have certain benefits, for example. And some countries are like that as well. One example, one benefit that I can think of is, when you are an NGO in your country, most countries have this benefit, not just Zimbabwe. Most countries that I've worked with, they have this benefit. If you are registered and you want to ship things into your country from another country, the taxes, the custom fees are waived. So that's a cost that sometimes can be exorbitant. Most organizations cannot afford it. But if your government gives you that benefit as a registered entity, and you know that every year or every other 2 years, I'm going to be soliciting for people to send me things, you want to be able to not pay, to get a waiver for not paying those things. And then in the United States, 501c3 status that you're given by the IRS, the Internal Revenue Services, they when you have that status, people who donate to you, people are more likely to donate to an organization that has status versus one that doesn't. Because when you have that status, the people who are donating to you, at the end of the year, they are able to write off a certain amount of their donations, a certain percentage of their donations on their tax returns. So there are a lot of benefits to being incorporated. And then also administratively, do you have a vested board? Do you have a board that is involved? Do you have a board that is really coming to work? There are some people who join a board because it's nice, it feels good to have your name written on some wall as a board member, and that's the end of it, for fame and bragging rights. But then, as nonprofit organizations as we are, we want board that work, because most of the time when we're first starting, we don't have the staff or the personnel, we don't have as much volunteers. So our board become that for us in the beginning. So is your board really vested? And some board members may say, you know what, I don't have the time, but I'm going to show my commitment by donating so much amount every month. How vested is the board of directors that you have? How diverse is your board of directors? Those things are very important. And also, what community stakeholders do you have? If you are doing a youth program, for example, are you partnering with, say, a gym, For example, maybe your children, the youth that you are serving, don't have enough time to do. They don't know. They don't have the time. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the capacity to know how to do exercises in the bodies that they are in. So, can you partner with a local gym? Can you partner with a local another local program that is providing services that you cannot? Who are some of the stakeholders that you can partner with? A lot of funders want to know that you are not just doing this on your own. I have been saying it for the last year or two that I believe in the nonprofit world, collaboration is the new currency. I believe that with all my heart. Collaboration, because you can't possibly be the end or be all of every person that you serve. There are some things that you cannot provide. You may provide this service, but you may not provide social services. You may not provide housing. You may not provide employment readiness. You may not provide a lot of things. You may not even provide support for parents within our group, with your mission. You may want parents who have disabled youth to have a support group. Maybe you don't have that capacity, but there is an organization within your community that has support groups. Perhaps you can talk to them to see if they can have. They can also host a support group for the parents, for the youth that you serve. Be established in the community with both formal and informal partnerships. So when you have found an organization that you want to partner with, make sure that the understanding of what you are sharing with one another, what you are giving with one another, is provided. So if you're applying for a grant, such partnerships, especially the formal ones that have an agreement with them, are very good to show to show in your package when you apply, because there is a portion where you send some of those supporting documents that are outside of those elements that I talked about. There is an appendices where in that appendices you can share as many documents as allowed to, that are not being shared in any other part of the grants that you're writing. And then you need to have a very clear and defined mission statement. A lot of times people don't know how or to make a mission statement, an effective mission statement, even a vision statement. And when you are asked these things, people don't know what to say, or you are convoluted and it's not making clear. So it's part of being ready is to have a very clear mission statement. Your organization's administrative readiness also talks about demonstrating your organizational credibility and competency. And then you also have a way to administratively, a way of measuring your outcomes and the impact that you have in your community. And then the next part of your readiness that I want to talk about is the programmatic piece. So you want to do this youth program. Do you have enough staff? Do you have qualified staff? Do you have a strong and sustainable program that you want to operate, that is already operating and you're growing on it, or this is the first time that you're doing it, and how do you support it? How do you say? A lot of times people have a challenge of how do I present to a new funder a new program that I've never done before, but I know I'm good at it and this is the mission. How do you present that in a way that wins you grants? And then another one is have a concise description of your programs or services that includes your goals, your objectives, the activities that you're going to be doing, like the actual activity. Don't just say we are going to have activities for youth, but what is the activity that you're going to be doing? And any key outcomes, since if you have already implemented them, if you've done them before, you already have outcomes that have happened before. If they are not, then what are the projected, what are the anticipated outcomes that you think this program is going to have. Have a strong, again, organization capacity. I don't know how much I can stress that the organization capacity is big. Now, maintain reliable data demonstrating a specific need within the community that comes from the last 3 years. Whether you have done it, if you've done it, then that in the last 3 years, then you already have that data within you. And then you're just adding any new data that has come up. And then if you don't have it, you are looking at the last 3 data from different sources, and you are presenting that type of data. And you're saying, this is the data that we currently have, and they're given this data, this is what we are anticipating. And then have a smart objectives and outlines. Can you just give me a second, please? One of my cousins. It's sorry. I just want this. Okay. Thanks. Sorry, my name. Okay. Sorry about that. Why did I stop sharing? Oh, I paused it. Now, how did I do that? I thought I was pausing my voice, but I paused my resume. I thought I was pausing my voice, but sorry, I paused my screen instead. Where was I? Okay, yeah. Okay. And then when you are writing your goals need to be SMART. Can anyone please put in the chat, what does that mean? What does SMART stand for? While you're doing that, I'll keep going and then come back to it. What does SMART, what does the acronym SMART stand for? The other, if you do you want to shout it, or you can write it in the chat, whichever way. You can shout it. Go ahead.
S for specific, M for measurable, A for attainable, R for realistic, T for time frame.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now let's see some chats in here. If there's something I'm supposed to be paying attention to. Okay, never mind. Okay, readiness in your financials from a financial perspective. Okay, what's going on with my? Okay, so a strong financial strategy with appropriate tracking measures needs to be in place. This is something that you prepare beforehand versus we'll learn as we go. You need to already have it in place. And then you need to have the most recent overall organization budget, and then you also have to have an individual program budget. So think of sets. In a set, you have the big circle, right? And within the circle, there's a subset. The big circle is the organization budget. The subset is is the program budget. What do you want to do with this one program that you are applying for, the youth program? Perhaps outside or in addition to the youth program, you also have your big circle includes your administrative costs, it includes your personnel, it includes your paying the rent and any other things that you need to do with your budget as an organization. And then the individual program budget is speaking to what do you want this youth program to provide? So in other words, what do you need for it? You're going to be serving 20 youth and you're going to be feeding them lunch. Therefore, this lunch is going to cost $10 a person. And we also need a case manager. Therefore, the case manager is going to be paid $20,000 a year. we are also going to need space, and the space is going to cost us $1,000 a month, whatever the case is. So that is that specific budget for that particular program. And then you need an accurate list of your past, your current, and your pending funding. Your past funding, if you've received any funding at all. And then current, if somebody has been giving just giving you some funding that you are currently you have. So past means you were given a grant, it lasted for a year 20 years ago. What was it? That's your past. Your current, what are the grants that you have already been approved of? You've already started receiving funds that you have. Some and then pending. Pending is we applied for a 5-year grant. We are in our 2nd year. And so they are still 3 years. That's a pending funding. Or another pending.
I've been to before, Christian.
Could remind everybody to mute yourself, please, so that the speaker can be focused on. Thanks.
And then another portion of the funding, another portion of pending funding is you have received, someone has promised you a grant. You have applied for a grant, has promised you this amount of money, but it hasn't started coming in. So that's pending. Okay. And then you need to have adequate internal support when it comes to reporting. Here is why. Internal meaning within your organization, when you do your reporting is going to basically have who are you serving? How many are you serving? How much is it costing you? And what have you done so far, right? What are the outcomes? And then what are the anticipated challenges? Those things are going to come from not just within the people in the people that are running the program, but finances, for example, is going to come from a financial department. They are not a day-to-day, every day they are the ones that are part of the program. But when it comes to finances, they are going to be able to give you the report of this is the amount that we were given, and we are in our 3rd quarter, and this is the amount that we have used this quarter. And this is what we have used so far. So within your organization, always have your key people of who is going to give me the report for this element of my reporting of my expected reporting, and who is going to give me this element. Always have that in mind before you while you are preparing to start to apply for a grant. And then if you have done this before, you have already in the US, even as a nonprofit organization, we are expected to do our taxes. What are the latest tax returns that you have? In your own organizations, what are some of the reporting that you do to your government? If you have any of those, you may need to share those with your funder if they request them. Then the next thing is research. A lot of times people skimp on research, but you need to research. Your research is very involved and sometimes can take a lot of time. So what are you researching? You're researching the funder. You are researching your project. What is it about the project that you are doing? What makes it stand out? What exactly are you doing that is different from another organization that is doing it? What other entities within your community are doing this similar project, and how are they doing it? How are they doing it best? What are lessons learned from there? And so that you can incorporate that when you're writing your entity, your program application, so that you can stand out. And you're going to research your audience. So if you're serving youth with a disability, is it any disability, or is it only youth who are on wheelchairs? Is it only youth who are blind because you want to teach them how to read Braille? Do you who exactly is your audience? Are they 10 years old to 16 years old? Are they younger? Who are your audience? Are they in the inner city? Are they rural based? Who are your audience? All that is part of your research. And then again, like I said earlier, you look at other similar projects to gain insight of what others people are doing, so that you can also, number one, learn from others, and also you are able to write in a way that you stand out. Like, are you not repeating what 10 other organizations in your community are doing? Then some funders will send you questions like, okay, we know in your community there are 5 organizations that are doing this very same program. Are you opposed to partnering with that organization? Did you need to open a new organization, a new NGO to do this because there are 10 others that are doing it? What makes you stand out? You need to be able to answer those questions. Where else can you get some insights? You can get some insight from, there's a website called GuideStar, where other entities put their reporting. They will tell you about who they are, what they do, and who they serve. And sometimes they also tell you their funding, what funding they have and where it's coming from. GuideStar used to be GuideStar, but it's now called Candid. If you're in the US, it's IRS, the Internal Revenue Services. And you're also going to do some research on demographic information of your audience, which I just mentioned as well. So the data always helps to create a strong grant proposal. Where is your data coming from? You want to have sources that you can point to. Did you use the census of last year? Did you use where did you get your demographics? Did you do a questionnaire that you put into the community, and that's how you collected your data? How did you come up with the data that you're using? You need to have the resource, the source, so that you're able to point to it. Has your project been done elsewhere? Talked about that. And if it has, what makes you stand out? How uniquely are you qualified to do this proposed project? Avoid double dipping or duplicating other projects or other organizations, because that's a quick way of not getting your funds that you're applying for. The next thing is relationships. A nonprofit organization, we thrive on relationships. So then it also follows that grants are heavily based on relationships on with previous funders, relationships with the community, other community collaborators, relationship with your evaluation and reporting strategies. Also, strong partnership letters will go a long way. If you are partnering with another entity in your organization, if they write a letter of, we've been partnering with this individual for a long time, therefore we are going to continue partnering with them now that they're starting their own nonprofit organization, and this is the support that we are going to give them, and this is what we are going to be getting from them as well. Those letters of recommendation, they're similar to letters of recommendation when you are applying for a new job, when you're applying for for a college place, you are asked for a letter of recommendation. It's similar to this in the nonprofit world. Your relationship also highlights your organization's capacity using relevant staff, qualifications, experiences, and the talents that you have within your team. You also use budget to demonstrate how you leverage the funds against other resources that you have. And the next thing is the writing. Writing is where you are going to spend most of your time doing, right? Because otherwise, how will they know that you exist? So you're going to be writing. So it makes sense that writing is part of the 5 R's. You want to leverage effective storytelling because you are selling your organization. So while you're selling your organization, when you're writing, your type of writing needs to be to elicit certain emotions. How do you want the person reading this to feel? Right? We are not saying, write such a sympathetic letter. Children are dying. If you give us $1.95, look at this, this child is being, eaten by flies and all that, some of these things that we see on TV sometimes. No, that's not it. You don't want to. Why put somebody in such a light? Why put another human being in such a light? But you can still get people to raise certain emotions by just informing them the truth. This is what is happening, but you don't necessarily have to put someone down in order for you to make your story. There are certain emotions that you want to elicit from the person that is reading, but they still can be kind and compassionate. And then back it up with data. What data do you have to back up what you're talking about? All right. And then admit your weaknesses. And while you're admitting your weaknesses in there, talk about how you are going to plan to work around those weaknesses. Could it be you're going to partner with somebody that has more strength in that area? Could it be you're planning on hiring someone who can help you with that weakness? Could it be you have a development plan for your staff, that there's going to be a training, some tip or training to help with that particular weakness? A lot of people, when we write our stories, we've been writing our narrative for days. You're on it, you're writing it. By the time, every time you read it, if you've been doing it for a long time, you start not seeing your mistakes. You start not seeing the grammatical errors or the misspelling, because it's correct in your head, but is it correct on paper? So it's important to seek other people to read it for you. A part of proofreading is you're asking someone to check your mathematical calculations, to check your grammar, your spelling, to align your narratives. Does what you have written on the objectives, is it in line with what you are writing with the activities? Is there an alignment there? Is what the activities you have listed on this side, does it make sense from a budgetary perspective? Is it in alignment? So seek, and I always say, sometimes encourage, seek someone who has got nothing to do with the grant, that has got nothing to do with what you have written, who is so independent. Can you just read this? Sometimes you just want them to read it to see if it makes sense. Just read it. What I've written, does it make sense? Have I sold my organization to you? Have I elicited some kind of emotions? What are they? Do you feel I backed it up with the data, with adequate data? Have I mentioned my weaknesses, and have I talked about how I'm going to work around those weaknesses? Don't embellish. Most reviewers, if not 99% of them, are going to see through embellishment. There's no reason for embellish, especially with us in the nonprofit world. There's really no reason. There is enough problems in the world that there is you don't need to embellish. The last one is reporting. When you are reporting, it is your opportunity to showcase or to brag on what you have done and how you have used the grant funds. There are two types of reporting. There is the progress reporting. Some will say we want a report every quarter. Some will say we'll have a report every 6 months, and some will say we want a report at the end of the tenure, of the length of your grant. So if your grant is 1 year, they want a final report at the end of the year. So all this instruction, you will see it when you read. Remember, when I first started, I said read very carefully the grant application. It will be able to tell you what or how often you report, what you report, and when and how you send that report. Some will give you a template, some will expect you to have your own template of reporting. So be cognizant of that. So what are some of the elements of a report? The grant summary, what's going on? What is going on with the program, right? And the milestones, what milestones have you had so far? Financial statements. So we gave you $1,000 that you said you wanted to do a program that is going to last a year. What we are in our first quarter, what have you done with the first $300? Or with what have you done with the first? Sometimes it's not necessarily $300 per each quarter. It could be that you buy all that you need in the first year, and then throughout the times you are using it, you are using those services, those things that you're. So for example, in the beginning, you might need computer. So you buy a computer that is not going to cost $300. It might cost you $400 or whatever the case is. You might need some supplies as you go. So some supplies you can buy every quarter, and some supplies you buy in the beginning of the year, depending on how your organization operates. But there are expectations of financial statements in there. Project activities. What have you done with the youth? That using the example of the youth, what have you done with them? What are some of the things that you have accomplished with your program? What are the results and the impact of what you are doing under this particular grant? What are some of the lessons learned? And what are your future plans in the sustainability of this particular program? Any other additional information that you may think will make your reporting strong, share it. So if there have been changes in your staff, you have added a staff have left, there is an economic downfall going on, or perhaps maybe there was a tornado in your area, so certain programs did not happen a certain way, you want to inform your funder of some of those things that are going on, so that they can manage their expectations of what you need to be giving to them. What are some of the supporting steps that some funders will take? Again, I'm giving you the general, commonly known, commonly used, but always follow the instruction of that particular grant. So make sure that you understand the reporting requirements from your grant. Track the data throughout the project. Some people will wait until the time of reporting to say, oh, by the way, how many people did we serve? Then you write it down. No. Track them from the beginning. That tracking mechanism can be every time people come in, they sign in, and then you put it in your Excel spreadsheet. So we did a project this today, and these are the people who came in, and this is what we did. It will make it easier for you, that you're not fumbling around when the deadline for the reporting is coming. By the way, Ken, I don't have access to a phone right now, or I mean a time. So please let me know, interrupt me if my time is running out. Clearly, we are not going to we're not going to be able to finish everything again, and you guys will have to sit together and let me know when else I can come back and do this. Just you and I can talk offline about when I can come back and finish this.
Okay, you're very kind, Pastor T, and I much appreciate you taking time away from your vacation to be with us on this. We're at the end of the hour at this point, so yeah, we can talk about the possibility of doing something else. That would be great. And I know you're doing this the kindness of your heart for us. And you run a business, and I know you offer what's an 8-week course? Is that correct? 2 times a week? Is that what? Am I correct on that?
Yes, and an 8-week. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there may be people in this room that are interested in getting in touch with you to talk about how that you could do that for how they could be part of your training class, or maybe even have their own company trained. Yeah, I don't know if you want to share your email in here so people could write to you and see how they can make arrangements for you to do the 8-week course in another capacity.
Absolutely. Let me just write my email, and then my phone number. So just so you, 618-8800. Okay, that's my phone number.
Great.
I am going to, let me just finish this part, the part of the 5 hours, and then we can come back. So good. Check the data that, throughout your project and follow the report guidelines of the application. Again, I can't stress enough. Be honest when you are doing reporting, because if you embellish, it will come through. If you are not honest, sometimes the funder will come back and say, well, I don't think this is true. They may be kind enough to come and tell you straight up that this is not true. This does not ring true. Or they may not say anything, but you can be rest assured that next time you will not be you will not be funded by them. You will not be invited to reapply for funds again when they catch you in not being honest. So they may not tell you, and you may not know that was the reason. But so just be honest at any cost. And then make sure you meet deadlines. A lot of people, they think, oh, I can talk them into, well, I had network problems, I had data issues, I didn't have access to ABC, and what my kid died, whatever. Most funders don't look kindly to ignored deadlines. Now, if there was a tornado in your neighborhood, or immediately before the reporting deadline comes, you write them, write your funder immediately something big happens in your community, to just say, listen, just so you know, I know that our reporting is in 1 month, but I just wanted you to know that we are going through a snowstorm right now. We don't know what it's going to look like. People are losing their homes and yada, yada, yada. We don't know what it's going to look like in a month, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. Most funders will work with you, especially after you've been given the money. They will work with you. So it's very important that you inform them, because they may not necessarily be paying attention to the news. They may not know what is happening in your neighborhood. So if the funder is right here in the US, and you are in Uganda, and there is a war that is breaking out in Uganda, in your village, maybe it's some dissidents that are coming in and attacking villages. The funder here in the US may not necessarily know that, because unfortunately in the US, they don't tell us everything about what's going on in the world. So it is your responsibility to tell us what's happening in your world, so that we know the funder who is in UK, in US, anywhere, even within the same country. Sometimes people who are in New York don't necessarily know what is happening in San Francisco, in California. So you just take that responsibility of informing them if you see that there are some drastic things that are happening in my community that may impact my reporting structure, that may impact my reporting timeline, that might impact the work that even the services that we are offering, so that when someone sees your report coming in, they are aware of it, that, well, they didn't do all the activities because there was a tornado in the community. There was a fire that broke up in that, a wildfire that broke up in the community. So they were not able to meet with the youth to do these activities. Tell people way in advance is the all I can say. So, with perfect timing, let's have lunch. Yeah, so that's my next slide. So usually what I am training you is stuff that takes me, this overall whole is something that usually takes me a day. So I have a whole day of this particular training, and I'm trying to put it all in 1 hour spurts for you guys. So I definitely appreciate the time and the nudging from Ken today, because I was in vacation mode. So yes, I have an 8-week course that I provide to individuals, and I provide that 8-week course more details than what I'm giving right now. And we even practice writing actual grants and submitting those actual grants. One of the classes that I'm in right now, one of our students actually applied for a grant and she got it. She was approved of the grant as a young lady in a remote area in Zimbabwe. She was concerned about the borehole. Her borehole in her community was not working, so people did not have access to water, and women that use that borehole to do gardening for vegetables that they sell to make income from their families, all that was impacted. So she took upon herself to say, oh, Pastor T advertised one of these grants let me see if I can use one of these grants to have our boreholes. And she doesn't have an organization. She's just an individual in the community, concerned, saw a concern, thought there was she could go for this grant that did not require you to have an organization. She applied for it and she got it. So now that borehole is going to serve her community with clean water. It had broken down and she needed it to be repaired. The community couldn't afford it, so she went for the grant.
That's a great story. It's a great story there. The thing is, with your knowledge and people can gain knowledge, there's a lot of money out there, a lot of grant money that's available if you know where to look and if you learn how to do it properly. So what you teach is very important to many organizations around the world.
Sorry, go ahead.
One of the things, Pastor T, you said last week was about cooperation with other organizations, and don't cooperate internationally with other organizations in some areas. Now, inside the European Council and the European Commission, they quite often want you to cooperate and they want you to nominate. So, for example, if you're doing something with Zimbabwe, or you're going through from that, the money might be coming out of the UK, but you would have to have a partner organization in Zimbabwe, and they would be accountable to you and to whoever's giving the grant. Now, the way that it works, you've got to actually go through and run it. And you also are in a situation where you're looking inside of the European Union, where you have to be looking at what they call Schedule 1 countries or Schedule 1 areas, which are the socially deprived areas. And you have to include those in your grant application and have them working with you. You can't just go as one. There are different sets of rules which they're working on this side of the Atlantic to some of the grants which come out from the States, which I've done before as well. And you've got to read the T's and C's, terms and conditions, extremely carefully, as you've been saying, because you may not, if you use your experience which you've got in one area, in one country, it may catch you out when you're going into a multi-field and a multinational area, like the Lomé Agreement, which goes through, and you can use EU money inside of Africa and various other things like that. But you then have to have at least 2 European countries working together with the partner country in Africa. So it gets rather more complicated. I was going to bring that up at the end of last week, but we didn't have time. It's just, you've got to be careful on that one.
Yes, absolutely. The only way to be successful when you are dealing with the grants is to follow the instructions in the grant. I know that sometimes people will think, well, don't they know that this is going on? They know that this is impossible. They know that this is difficult. They know that. But quite frankly, they don't care in this regards. They are just saying, if you want our money, these are the parameters. So understanding those parameters is paramount. And just be in that position where you read them, and partner with whomever you want to partner with. A lot of times, people will partner with individuals who have not been vetted. For example, in Europe, in the US, you want to do a project in Africa somewhere, or in Pakistan. Then you only know one individual in Pakistan. You partner with that person in Pakistan who does not have an organization there in Pakistan, therefore is not quite vetted. And then that person then runs away with funds, and your project goes down.
I've seen that happen before.
Yep, I have seen that happen a lot of times. That's why I advocate for be incorporated, whatever the incorporation is, because at least it's a government assigned entity where you can go to the government. If it's an individual, what are you going to do? Chase them down the street for whatever money that they have taken? But if it's an entity, the way you recover is different than if it's an individual, if you do choose to try and recover. So it's just important to just make sure that your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted.
And run due diligence on your partner organization, the incorporated organization first. I've seen due diligence not being run, and the partner organization, which is a limited company, collapse itself after it receives the grant, and then that's it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think another thing that a lot of organizations fail to do is they choose to empower. They choose to partner with a certain entity, but then they don't also do the due diligence to empower them. Because the truth of the matter is things are done differently in the West than they are in other countries. Both entities need to come to an understanding of what works, because what works in the US does not work in Africa, in any country that you can pick in Africa. What works over there does not pick. Even I myself, being a Zimbabwean native, when I first started my organization in Zimbabwe of taking care of AIDS orphans and widows in 2008, I had the big picture. I had this is what I want to do, and this is what these are the activities and services I'm going to provide. Boy, was I shocked when I went there to visit, to talk to the people that I thought I was helping, because the first few years, it was like pulling teeth. I'm asking for this, I'm asking for that, and I'm not getting it. And only to realize I skipped a bit. I did not do that researching my audience, having conversations with my audience to find out what I think they need versus what they actually need. There could be a very big disconnect there. And so I had to adjust. And that applies with all of us. If you're doing a project outside of your community, you need to educate yourself on the custom. Even though I grew up in Zimbabwe, there are certain things, certain culture that has changed. Culture does evolve. And I was working from 35 years ago, when in reality, a lot of things had changed from then. And then I felt like, well, they don't need my help. They don't know how to be helped. And then I got into this fuzzy, when in reality, the problem was me assuming that my African counterparts want this, when that's not what they needed. Why can't they just take it? Sometimes I even get, now I'm more informed, and I do things a little bit differently. It's the same with when people are donating things. People will donate, you start doing like a clothes drive, and you have individuals who will donate things that really belong in the garbage. But their argument is, well, at least they have something. You are donating to these poor kids and these poor families who don't have anything, so anything is better. No. Anything is not better. That's not how it needs to be. Can you give that to your child? Can you wear it? If you can't wear it, then don't be donating that to somebody.
It's years.
That's just how I feel. Thought I should just say that.
So, Pastor T, I noticed a lot of people probably, as they tried to convert the time, came in a little late, but we've recorded this meeting. It will be shared, the part 1 and part 2. So those who didn't make it on time will be able to see it there. I'll post it in various different places. So, and we should let you get back to your vacation. Enjoy that good Florida weather down there. So Much appreciated. Pastor D did post her contact information in the chat here. We'll be making it available to anybody who wants it, and much appreciated. Just I know your 8-week course must be amazing. It has to be. So okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you
So much, Kim. Thank you. So my course, just so you know, because sometimes people are concerned about data costs, especially if you're not in the West. My courses are available on, I do them via WhatsApp as well. Those 8 courses via WhatsApp twice a week, or on for those who have Zoom, I do them via Zoom as well. I also have posted a link of my WhatsApp group where I post Monday to Thursday, except this week might be different. I don't know, we'll see. But every day, Monday to Thursday, I post at least 10 funding opportunities per day. Monday to Thursday, I post 10 funding opportunities on there that people are free to apply for. It's a one-way communication. I just go in there and post, and if you need it, you go for it. If you don't, you don't, and that's it. So, but it's there. So, because sometimes people say, okay, we are talking about all these grants are available, but where are they? Well, you have them now. And if you don't see the grant or the area that you are looking for, so if you're looking for funding for farming tomatoes or whatever, or food security, and you don't see it in there, you just send me a private message in the inbox and say, can you post more about this? And I will be happy to post those. I do a lot of research on grants, and I just go ahead and post them for you.